Hey boys and girls. So we're going to continue reading The Watsons Go to Birmingham. I just want to remind you that I read 3 pages and then you're going to continue reading the pages that I leave attached for you. You can also reread the pages I read if you want, and we just keep them attached just so you guys can reference back to them. Okay? Now make sure you're not rushing through your multiple choice because I can tell if you are, but you guys are really doing a wonderful job and I'm very proud of you. So, we're going to get started. Of his. This was okay for a while, but then I figured that if I told Mama I'd lost my first pair, she'd give me the second one and me and Rufus each would have full pair of gloves. It worked! Mama put the second pair on my coat, kindergarten style, and warned me, "This is the last one, Kenny. After this, you won't have anything for the rest of the year, so be very careful." I just about broke out laughing when she held me by the arm and looked right in the eyes and said, "Do you know what frostbite will do to you?" "Yes, Mama." I looked sad on the outside, but in the inside I was feeling great. I gave Rufus the right hand glove and everything was fine for about a week. That's when my second pair of gloves, kindergarten string, safety pins, and all disappeared out of the closet at school. Rufus had let me borrow one of my gloves back, and we were back to scrunching one hand each up in our coat sleeves. But since Rufus was now the official owner of the gloves, he got to keep the right one, and I had to wear the left-hand one. 2 days later, Derry Dunn stopped wearing socks on his hands and started wearing a pair of real leather gloves with real rabbit fur on the inside of them. The only difference between my old gloves and Larry's new gloves was that mine was brown and Larry's were black. Me and Rufus found this out when Larry ran up behind us and said, "This Friday, y'all time to do the laundry. Who's gonna be first?" "Country cornflakes," cockeyed Kenny. He didn't wait for us to make up our minds and grabbed me first. He said to Rufus, "If you run away during Kenny's wash, I'm gonna hunt you down and hurt you bad, boy. This ain't gonna take but a minute, so just stick around." Rufus stood there looking worried. Larry wasn't like other bullies. He wasn't happy taking a handful of snow and smashing it in your face and running off. Larry gave what he called Maytag washes. With a Maytag wash, you had to go through all the different cycles that a washing machine did. And even though when Larry gave you a Maytag, all the cycles were exactly the same, each part had a different name, and the wash wasn't done until you went through the final spin and had snow in every part of your face. Ever since Larry got these new leather gloves, he was giving super Maytag washes because he could grind a whole lot more snow in your face for a whole lot longer, since his hands weren't getting cold. Larry was tearing me up. I was crying even before the first rinse cycle was done, and he finally let me go. After he washed Rufus up, we started walking home, and Rufus said, "Man, he stole your gloves." Who didn't know this? But you couldn't prove it. And besides, my old gloves were brown and Larry's new ones were black. Mine were brown, I said. Rufus dug a chunk of snow out of his jacket and said, "Look!" The snow was covered with black, so all of the snow I pulled out of my outer coat. Larry had stolen with my gloves, then painted them with black with shoe polish. I didn't know what to do. Sooner or later, Mama was going to notice I had one glove, and ever since I'd found out that half of my blood was that thin southern kind, I started wondering if frostbite really could do some damage to my hands. I couldn't help myself. I sat on the curb and sniffled a couple times and finally cried. Rufus knew this was some real embarrassing stuff, so he sat down beside me. He looked the other way and acted like he didn't see me crying. That's how come we didn't see Bi and Buphead walk up on us. I was too busy looking down trying not to be too obvious about crying, and Rufus was too busy pretending he didn't notice that I was. What you crying about, punk? I made the mistake of telling Byron about my gloves. Where's he at? Washing kids' faces over by the school? Come on. Me and Rufus followed by and Bubhead over to Clark. Larry Dunn was giving Super Maytag to a 5th grader. Byron interrupted the final rinse and said, "Let me see them gloves." Larry Dunn said, "I ain't." By snatched Larry Dunn's windbreaker with one hand, then touched his own mouth with the other hand. So attached are the pages that you guys are going to continue to read. If you have any questions or concerns, you can send us a comment or you can send us a dojo. Best of luck. Make sure to take your time.